Good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay? All right. Just a couple items as we get started. First of all, the Wi-Fi is Highland guests, and the user ID and the password is training, and the password is learning with an exclamation point at the end, all lowercase. And if you ever forget it, it's over on the far right on the board. I hope you've all had a chance to grab some breakfast before we get started, some coffee outside as well, if needed. The center hallway, and they're going to be located on the right-hand side down the hall. Please keep in mind, participation is always encouraged. Feel free to ask any question, and just like the quote states in the center, the only stupid question is the one not asked. So feel free to ask any question at any point in time. We like to keep it as casual as possible, but at the same time organized, following a schedule. So if your question is going to require a little bit more detail, the speaker will likely ask you to take it offline afterwards. I'd like to give a big thank you to our sponsors. First and foremost, Highland. Brian Stump, who is the lead from Highland, has stepped out for just a moment. The guy's been fighting a cold, and he actually came out of bed early this morning to open up the room for us, and he's been a great help in facilitating getting the space. Also, Microsoft and Thursday Cloud for providing lunch, and NIS Technologies for providing breakfast. Also, a big thank you to our speakers. Bert Wagner from Progressive, Brian Kaczynski came to us from the Michigan area, Matt Gordon from Louisville, Hassan Savran also works at Progressive from the Cleveland area, and we also have Umang Nahata, and he's going to be presenting later this afternoon, and then yours truly over on the far right-hand side. My name is Sam Nasser, and a little bit about me. I've been a software developer since 1995. I've been working as a senior software engineer for NIS Technologies, and we have some literature over next to the door. I'm also the instructor. Been certified with a few certifications from Microsoft, and I run the Cleveland C# VB.NET user group, as well as an online .NET study group, when all the information for that can be found on meetup.com. In addition, I've authored several articles for Visual Studio Magazine, and I've been a 5-time Microsoft MVP. Regarding the Cleveland C# VB.NET user group, I know many of you here have attended. How many of you have not? Shame on you all. All right, so what's the benefit of, for those that do attend the user group, what's the benefit of attending? Other than the pizza, of course. Sorry? Learning and networking. Probably the second one is more important than the first one, but they both go hand in hand, right? You're not going to be able to advance your career unless you've gained some knowledge and had exposure to the newer technologies that are out there. Likewise, networking with the right people can help you get in without having to go through the rigorous interview process. So our meetings are scheduled once a month. Typically, we meet every fourth Thursday over on Rockside, which is conveniently located off of 77. The meetings are free of charge and open to the public, and we discuss anything and everything related to .NET. For additional information, you can find us on meetup.com and search for Cleveland C# VB.NET, and there's the link located at the bottom. So I want to welcome you all. You are partaking in an event that's happening worldwide today. It's a global event in over 130 worldwide locations, and you see that the majority of them are over on the East Coast and the southern area, hardly any in the Midwest. We have 2 that are happening in Ohio. And the whole point of this is to bring the AI community together. And if you don't know AI, now's the perfect chance to actually get exposure to it and learn more about this emerging technology. Our agenda, we're going to start off by a little introduction and a keynote, and then we'll be talking about Introduction to LUIS, which is the Language Understanding Intelligence Service. Then we're going to have a 15-minute break between every session, and then following that is going to be Exploring Social Media Sentiment by Matt Gordon, who again is from Louisville. We're going to have lunch between 11:30 and noon, and then we're going to have 3 other remaining sessions in the afternoon, and hoping to wrap it up by 4:45 and be out of here by 5 o'clock. So, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and deep learning. What do they all mean? Kind of sounds like alphabet soup. Kind of all the terms tend to blend together. Machine learning is essentially the ability to use patterns from data rather than from explicit programming, and it helps the machine to learn and be able to make decisions going forward. Artificial intelligence builds on that, and it actually uses sensory inputs so then it can arrive at those decisions by themselves. And then deep learning is using layers of the machine learning and methods to create networks that basically mimic the human thinking. And we'll see how that can be applied in things like Lewis as well as sentiment analysis. Tom Mitchell was quoted as saying that with machine learning, it's basically a computer program that learns to perform a task from a specific experience, looking at a specific task, and then measured the performance metric, and then it improves the experience over time. So this kind of reads like a algebra problem with the perform task T from experience E, if it's performance at task T, so on and so forth. The whole point is, with machine learning, essentially the machine learns by performing the same task over and over again, but then having the developer adjust what the outcome is. And so therefore, it's able to predict the future outcomes after that and be able to function on its own. Microsoft has taken artificial intelligence and democratized it, meaning they've used a lot of services. So now we've gotten to the point where all the machine learning and the deep learning and the artificial intelligence has been abstracted, and it's been put aside for us up in the cloud. All we simply need to do is to be able to make a REST API call. So we've gotten to the point where if you can make a REST API call, you're now using artificial intelligence and machine learning. This is just a summary of all the different services that are offered by Cognitive Services, and they span 5 different areas regarding vision, speech, language, knowledge, and search. The first one I'll be talking about regarding the language, which is in the center column, and more specifically with language understanding. So let me ask you, what is your motive for being here today? Other than the giant muffins and the coffee outside. To learn. Learn what? Okay, so learn more about AI. So the question is, how many of you are using AI or ML in your current jobs right now? So I only see about 10% of the room, which means 90% really are not working with it, but at the same time, you're here to learn about it. Why is that? Actually, it's you 90% that I admire, because you're going out of your way to push yourself to learn, which is one of the big motives for me for organizing events like this. So, you are motivated to innovate. And as Steve Jobs once said, innovation distinguishes between a leader and a follower. So, you are currently not using AI or ML in your workplace, but yet you are sacrificing a full Saturday so you can be here and learn about it and hopefully take it to the next level. Shifting gears for a moment, one of my favorite quotes. Henry Ford, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses, right? And this goes along the line with innovating and delivering value. So the 90% of you that are not working with AI that are here today, you're here because you want to deliver value. You're not just simply going to your boss and saying, what do you want me to do? I'll do it. But rather you're here so that you can find out where you can take your organization to the next level and better utilize your time and deliver more value. Here's a question. How many have heard this quote? Data is the new oil. What does that mean? Can I run my car on data? Can I get rich off of my data? Ryan, what does it mean? So if we look at oil, when was oil discovered, roughly? Anyone have an idea? I'm sorry? 17th or 18th century? A little bit further back. 600 BC. That's when oil was first discovered. So during that time, up until the Industrial Revolution, how much potential did oil have when it was discovered? 600 BC, a guy struck oil. Great. What do I do with it? Right? It's the slimy black mess. I can't clean it, can't get it off my hands. It's certainly not making him rich at that time. So how much potential did oil have when it was first discovered? Zilch. How much potential does oil have today? A lot, right? Why is that? What happened between then and now that caused oil to be so expensive and to have such great potential? We learned how to use it, right? If we didn't learn how to use it, it would still be there. It's still in the ground, but rather we learned how to harness the power of that oil by utilizing the internal combustion engine, by refining that crude petroleum into many different products: kerosene, gasoline, diesel fuel, etc. Switching gears yet again. How many have heard the term that developers are guardians of data? Sounds very Avenger-like, right? We're the guardians of data. What does that mean? So essentially, when we write an application, we're always concerned with what? What's one of the things that we're always concerned with, other than the application working right? Because it always works right. Sorry? Security, right? Who can see that data? Who can read it? Who can update it? And more importantly, who can delete it? And we put very tight controls around that: user IDs, passwords, second factor authentication, etc., etc. So where am I going with this? We're guardians of data, and we were talking about how do the two get together. Data is essentially the new oil, as I said before. It is the material, for lack of a better word, the raw material that has potential for unlocking a tremendous amount of features. The only way that we can harness the power of that data is by using artificial intelligence. And so artificial intelligence and machine learning will allow us to harness the full power of the data. If we didn't have a combustion engine, would we really have a use for crude oil? Probably not, right? But yet you look at the combustion engine, and it's used in a variety of different ways to propel cars, boats, planes, and we're able to harness crude petroleum, refine it, and use it in such a way that we can harness all the power out of it. It's the same thing with our data. Now, where data differs from oil, we continue to suck it out of the ground through various means. And people can argue we have a limited supply for 20 years versus 40 years, but with data, it's actually the exact opposite. As long as we have customers, we're going to continue to collect data. We're now able to do predictive analytics on that data. We're now able to see patterns of how our customers are shopping. We're now able to offer a more competitive product at a more competitive price by harnessing all that data that we've acquired. So it allows us to innovate applications with rich experiences, meaning it is not just the same old application where you log in using a user ID and a password, you click purchase, enter a credit card number, and be done. But rather, we can offer a more rich experience. Things like custom vision services that are offered through cognitive services in Azure. How many of you are familiar with custom vision? So that is a very cool tool, and what it allows you to do is to be able to place an item, take a picture of it, upload it, and it will tell you it's a picture of a mobile phone. It's a picture of an apple. Now, we can go a step beyond that. I'm working with a client in Akron, and they're dealing with electrical equipment. So whenever there's downed lines in a storm, they want their folks to be able to take a picture out in the field and submit it, and then it would automatically trigger a repair request. So if I see downed power lines, it could have 2 transformers on it. It could have 3 additional high power lines attached to it. By simply taking a picture and having custom vision identify all the items within it, it will automatically send a request and a work order to the repair department. We can also use it to create sentiment analysis, and Matt Gordon will be talking about that later today. Whenever I submit a tweet, and we've all used Twitter at one point or another, I assume, correct? Right? How many of you have had issues with an airline? Hardly ever, right? And what's the first thing that we do? Get on Twitter and start complaining. And what happens within a matter of minutes? Typically, my experience has been I get a response within a matter of minutes. So with sentiment analysis, it helps to identify, is that tweet good or bad? And then it can channel it to the right place and be able to do further additional tasks on it according to what the organization has dealt. I don't want to discuss too much more about it. I'll leave that up to Matt. But another thing that we could utilize on top of the data that we're already housing is using chatbots with natural language, and I'll be talking about that in just a second. So the advantage of a chatbot is, I'll give you another scenario. I was on Auto Trader shopping for a car, and it was Sunday evening, and there was a chat with me button, and I clicked it, and I'm like, is there really a dealer open at 8 p.m. on a Sunday? It can't be. And I'm chatting back and forth, and it seemed like it was an actual real-world experience. I was typing in natural language. It wasn't pre-formatted questions that I was selecting from, and yet I was having a conversation back and forth. And so had I been someone who is not in the IT field, I would have thought that I'm talking to a real person as opposed to a machine. And so again, this ties in with being able to deliver a richer experience to our customers through our apps, using the data that we've already harnessed. So I asked, for example, do you have a 2019 silver Mustang in stock? And I'll get a response, yes, we have two. Come and visit us Monday morning at 9 a.m. A lot better than me leaving a voicemail and then not getting anything and waiting till Monday to actually find out, do you have that car in stock? So it's a richer experience built on the data that we have.